Although she's not stepped into her mother's famous red shoes, she is definitely following in her footsteps. Judy Garland's daughter and Liza Minnelli's sister, Lorna Luft, is this morning's celebrity guest. She's performing in a new musical, and Kate Sanderson went to the show.
Lorna, thanks for coming on Heaven and Earth. Now, you're currently doing this show, Songs My Mother Taught Me, and I have to say, you're in trouble with me. You made me cry within the first 10 minutes.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Why was it that you actually decided to do this show now? I mean, it's something that you seem to have been building up to all your life.
Yeah, I'd never done this before. I'd stayed so far away from my mom's material. It was too scary and overwhelming, and it was overpowering to me. When I hit my 40s, then I thought to myself, why not take on the musical legacy to make sure people don't forget?
It's just the nearness of you.
But you were brought up on the stage, weren't you, really?
Yeah.
And went around with your mum the whole... I mean, it's unusual childhood. Do you recognise it as being an unusual childhood?
No.
It's just normal to you, is it?
Yeah. It was chaos at times. Sometimes it wasn't great. Sometimes it was awful. And sometimes the highs were really high. And the celebratory times were just off the chart. And then the depths of despair were pretty drastic also. But throughout it all, I knew that my parents loved me. So that was a really big comfort to me. I always knew that my mom was out there fighting and doing all she could because she loved the three of us. And she was the best parent she knew how to be. And what I mean by that is that when you are the breadwinner from the time you're 2.5 years old, she supported her whole family. She didn't have the love, spirituality, grounding that she should have had. Her father passed away when she was really young, and then her mother just thought, okay, this is my meal ticket. And she had no grounding, she had no support.
Your mum, Judy Garland, obviously she's well known to have had problems with addiction.
Mm-hmm. Now, you've got to remember that my mother was given amphetamines and sleeping pills when she was 12 years old, 13, by the studio and by doctors.
That was all part of keeping her young and in the part.
It wasn't keeping her young, it was keeping her from gaining weight. All right, now, in the 30s, everybody was taking these little pills. Writers were taking them, truck drivers were taking them, everybody was taking them, and they didn't think that there was going to be any problem. But then they started giving them to the children so that they could keep them working. That was the tragedy in her life. She wasn't a tragic person, but that was the tragedy in her life. Okay? Well, she had this book where she cut out really horrific things, you know, tornadoes tearing, you know, villages apart and things like that, and she would glue them into this book. And one day I said, what is that? And she said, well, that's the tragedy book. I said, what is that for? She says, that's when I feel really, if I ever feel bad for myself, I can open it up and say, yeah, I have problems, look what happened to this person.
Really?
So that she never would let herself feel too bad about herself.
What kind of effect did it have on you as you were growing up, this addiction?
It is like having a tornado in your living room, because it affects everyone. It affects everyone on a daily basis. And I wish I could sit here and tell you that I'm the last child that's going to, of an addicted person that's going to sit here. There are kids right now, as we all know, putting their, you know, addicted parent, sister, brother, whatever, to bed. You know, you wind up being the parent at times. You wind up being the adult. You wind up taking care of, and that becomes your role, is that you become the caretaker, and that's what I did.
And you got addicted yourself, didn't you, for a short while?
I got into the good old use of cocaine. I don't know if I got addicted, I just did it a lot. Okay? Because then I was lucky enough to be able to stop.
I mean, what I think is so amazing is that people often talk about sort of a destructive streak within your family in terms of addiction. That you know, they talk about your mum and your half sister Liza Minnelli having this. How come you managed not to have it, or you?
I got lucky. It's genetic, and I got lucky.
there are sometimes with incredibly successful stars a sort of tendency to have an addiction, that's something that's in the makeup of a person that makes them a star, that also makes them vulnerable.
I think that's the biggest load of rubbish I've ever heard in my entire life.
Really?
Okay? It really is how you live your life and how you take responsibility for your life and how you're brought up. And I'm a mother now, you know, I have a 20-year-old son and a 13-year-old daughter, and I'm watching how I speak to them, what they're into, you know, and what all of that. My responsibility is to guide them in hopefully the right direction.
Well, we're going to have a little break now,
Okay.
and in the next part we're going to talk a little bit about how you lost your mum when you were 16 years old, but also about how you see her as your guardian angel.
Right.
So join us a little later for that.
We're singing all morning in this studio. Thanks, Kate.